silent retribution. For 3 millennia, the Galactic Coalition had maintained their carefully crafted peace. The Vorin managed trade routes with methodical precision. The Caldari enforced their laws with unwavering justice. The enigmatic Zithara observed from their crystalline fortresses orbiting gas giants. Hundreds of species had found their place within the Coalition's embrace through diplomacy or force. Earth was supposed to be irrelevant, a primitive backwater with basic spaceflight capability and a chaotic, violent species barely worth monitoring. Coalition records marked it observation only, a file untouched for centuries. The first indication something was wrong came at Outpost Helios 9, a strategic waypoint connecting 17 prosperous systems. The emergency beacon activated but cut off mid-transmission. When Coalition investigators arrived, they found only carnage, security systems disabled with surgical precision, bodies of the station's finest guards scattered like discarded toys, and a message burned into the command center wall: "Humanity remembers." Commander Genvex of the Caldari Authority studied security footage with growing unease. A lone figure moved through the outpost like a phantom, tall, agile, lethal. No energy weapons, just primitive tools, blades and projectile weapons that fired metal slugs. The intruder executed each movement with terrifying efficiency, as if the station's elite security force were mere training dummies. "An isolated incident," the Vorin representative insisted during the emergency council meeting. "Possibly a mercenary with a grudge." Then a second outpost went dark. A patrol cruiser was found drifting, its crew eliminated, systems intact but powered down. A gleaming diplomatic vessel disappeared next, later discovered with its entire complement of dignitaries executed, except one, left alive deliberately to deliver a message. The attacker wore the insignia of Earth's special forces. The trembling survivor reported. "She said to tell you that peace built on genocide will never last." The Coalition's highest chambers erupted in confusion. Earth was categorized as an undeveloped world, never formally contacted. Some argued the planet had been destroyed in an ancient stellar event. Yet this ghost was real, and she was hunting them. Deep in the Coalition's classified archives, a truth lay buried. Operation Silent Cleanse. 4 centuries earlier, Earth had been approached for assimilation. When they refused Coalition terms, the planet was bombarded from orbit, its cities reduced to radioactive glass, its population presumed eradicated. The operation was purged from official records, remembered only by those at the highest levels of Coalition leadership. Now their sins had returned with a vengeance. Commander Alara Hayes crouched in the shadows of a maintenance shaft aboard the Coalition's Nexus station. Her breathing was controlled, muscles coiled with patient tension. Blood had dried on her combat suit, not hers. The station's recycled air carried the antiseptic scent of Coalition technology, a smell she'd grown to despise. 400 years, since Earth's destruction. 4 centuries spent in cryosleep aboard a hidden military vessel designed to awaken its occupant if Earth's automated defense network detected planetary bombardment. She was supposed to be part of a larger contingent, Earth's failsafe, its retribution force. But system malfunctions had left only her pod operational. Now she carried the weight of her dead world alone. She checked her ancient but meticulously maintained rifle, a relic from a civilization the Coalition had tried to erase. According to the files she'd extracted from previous targets, this station contained proof of what they'd done to Earth and the names of those responsible. The Coalition species had grown complacent over millennia of unchallenged authority. They built their stations with elegant symmetry, predictable patterns, and consistent security protocols. Their arrogance made them vulnerable. Alara slipped between patrol schedules, her movements timed to sensor gaps she'd identified during her observation phase. The command center would be heavily guarded, but she didn't need to go there. Her target was 3 levels below, the archival chamber where the Coalition's darkest secrets were stored. She encountered a guard, a tall Vorin, with iridescent scales who died without making a sound as her blade found the junction between neck plates. Excessive lethality wasn't her goal, but neither was mercy. Every Coalition species had representatives on the council that ordered Earth's destruction. Every one of them shared the guilt. The archival chamber's entrance required high-level authorization. Ilara used the override codes extracted from a Coalition admiral's neural implant 2 operations earlier. The massive doors slid open, revealing walls of data crystals glowing with stored information. She interfaced her scavenged datapad with the central terminal and began her search. Coalition classification systems were labyrinthine by design, but she'd had years to study their methodology. Within minutes, she found it. Operation Silent Cleanse, authorization signatures, tactical assessments, casualty projections, everything. Ilara downloaded the files and planted her final surprise, a viral transmission program that would broadcast the evidence across every Coalition communication channel within the hour. As she turned to leave, a voice echoed through the chamber. "So you are real after all." A Zithara stood in the doorway, crystalline exoskeleton catching the light. The rare species served as the Coalition's philosophers and ethicists, supposedly the conscience of their galactic order. The Coalition's greatest shame, returned to haunt us, the alien continued, making no move to sound alarms. "You knew," Ilara said, weapon raised. "You all knew." Not all. Those of us who questioned the ethics were reassigned. The Coalition built its peace on secrets and selective memory. The Zithara's multifaceted eyes studied her. "What do you hope to accomplish, last daughter of Earth? The architects of your world's destruction are long dead." "Their legacy isn't. Their systems remain, and now everyone will know what peace cost." The Zithara made a gesture of acknowledgement. "The foundation of justice is truth. Perhaps this revelation is overdue." It stepped aside. "Security will arrive in approximately 40 seconds. Ilara hesitated, then nodded once before slipping past. The Zithara made no move to stop her. She was 3 corridors away when the alarms began. By then, the transmission had already started, Earth's final moments playing on screens throughout Coalition space. Orbital bombardment, cities vaporized, the desperate last transmissions from a planet that refused to kneel. Ilara fought her way to the docking bay, eliminating resistance with brutal efficiency. A stolen shuttle carried her away from the station as Coalition vessels scrambled in pursuit. They would hunt her more aggressively now, but it didn't matter. The truth was free, and she had the next name on her list. Across Coalition territory, the carefully maintained order began to fracture. Species who had joined under duress saw proof of the Coalition's true nature. Those who believed in its principles of peace questioned their complicity. And on distant frontier worlds, the first whispers spread. Earth lives. Ilara's shuttle disappeared into the dark between stars, carrying humanity's vengeance toward its next target. The galaxy had forgotten Earth once. She would ensure they never did again. The Huntress unveiled Admiral Vorzen of the Coalition Defense Authority slammed his fist against the holographic display, scattering the projected images of destroyed outposts and assassinated officials. 7 attacks in 60 days, he growled to the assembled Emergency Council. Our most secure installations infiltrated, our highest-ranking officers executed, and sensitive information broadcast across public channels. All by a single human operative. The council chamber, a vast circular hall with soaring ceilings designed to inspire awe, now felt like a trap. The Coalition's most powerful beings sat in uncomfortable silence, their usual confidence replaced by something rarely seen in these halls. Fear. A Kaldari security analyst stepped forward, her uniform immaculate despite the crisis. "We've analyzed the attack patterns," she reported. activating a three-dimensional map that displayed a web of red markers across Coalition space. The human isn't selecting targets randomly. Each strike cripples a specific function of our governance structure: communication nodes, supply chains, command hierarchies. She's systematically isolating our power centers from each other. Like a predator separating prey from the herd, murmured an elder Vorin, his scales dulled with age. Precisely, the analyst confirmed. And there's something else. The time between attacks is decreasing, but the complexity and impact of each operation is increasing. She's accelerating. The situation has escalated beyond containment, noted Leary Na, the Vorin trade minister, her scaled skin pale with stress. Riots have erupted on 12 worlds. 3 systems have declared independence from Coalition authority. Our commercial routes are compromised. She isn't just killing targets, said Vorzen. She's dismantling us systematically. Communications, hubs, supply depots, diplomatic centers. The human understands our infrastructure better than most of our own strategists. The High Chancellor of the Caldari shifted uncomfortably. What do we know about this? Commander Hayes? Special Forces. Earth's elite Phantom Division, Vorzen replied, bringing up a reconstructed profile. Trained for deep cover operations, behind enemy lines. The historical records we've recovered suggest she was part of a contingency force placed in stasis before the intervention. A holographic image rotated above the center of the room. A human female with close-cropped dark hair and eyes that seemed to pierce through the projection itself. Combat metrics scrolled alongside. Exceptional reaction time, unprecedented tactical adaptability, enhanced endurance. The council members studied her with a mixture of fear and reluctant admiration. Her military records indicate she specialized in asymmetric warfare against technologically superior opponents, continued Vorzen. Before Earth's neutralization, she had completed 37 high-risk missions with a perfect success rate. Their military designated her as a force multiplier, a single operative capable of inflicting damage equivalent to an entire combat unit. How did she survive? Demanded a Caldari representative. The orbital bombardment was thorough. Vorzen's expression darkened. We're still piecing that together. Earth apparently anticipated potential extinction-level threats. They created a deep space survival facility, an ark of sorts, containing cryogenically preserved individuals selected for their skills. Hayes was among them. The facility was designed to activate revival protocols upon detecting planetary catastrophe. Intervention, spat a voice from the back of the chamber. A Zithara counselor named Tulzan stepped forward, crystal exoskeleton glinting. You still use euphemisms for genocide, even as its consequences tear our society apart. That operation was authorized by a previous council and hidden by every council since, Tulzan interrupted. Now we face its judgment. Vorzen's expression hardened. Philosophical debates can wait. I'm activating the Genesis Protocol. A shocked murmur ran through the chamber. The Genesis Protocol authorized the deployment of the Coalition's most secret weapon, the Executors, genetically engineered living, weapons created for extinction-level events. The human must be eliminated before she can cause further damage, Vorzen continued. I've already dispatched the first Executor unit. Meanwhile, across the galaxy, Ilara Hayes docked her stolen vessel, with the derelict mining facility orbiting a nameless dwarf planet. The structure had been abandoned decades ago when ore deposits were depleted, making it perfect for her needs, isolated, forgotten, and invisible to standard Coalition scans. Inside, she was not alone. The Coalition has implemented emergency protocols across 17 sectors, reported Krell, a dishonored Caldari military engineer who had sought her out after the truth broadcasts began. His powerful frame moved nervously through the command center they'd repurposed. Travel restrictions, identity verifications, increased patrols. Good, Ilara replied, cleaning her rifle with practiced precision. It means they're scared. They're deploying executors, said a softer voice. Val Shar, a Voran scientist who had been outcast for questioning Coalition ethics, looked up from her communication array. I intercepted classified transmissions. These are not ordinary hunters, Commander. Ilara continued her work, expression unchanged. Tell me, bioengineered combat units with enhanced strength, neuroreactive armor, and conditioning that eliminates fear or hesitation. Val Shar's membranes fluttered anxiously. They were designed to eliminate entire species deemed threats to Coalition. Stability. The irony isn't lost on me, Ilara said. She completed reassembly of her weapon with a decisive click. How many allies have responded to our signal? Krell checked his terminal. 17 vessels, primarily independent operators, and those formerly subjugated by Coalition expansionism. They've gathered at the coordinates you specified. Ilara nodded. After her third successful strike, she'd begun leaving behind more than just evidence of Coalition crimes. She'd included contact protocols for those who wished to join her cause. The response had surpassed even her expectations. Species who had suffered under Coalition rule, individuals who believed in justice, over order, officers who could no longer reconcile their duty with the truth. And the primary target? Val Shar displayed a holographic star map. Chancellor Vor Zen will be attending the emergency summit on Caldari Prime in 3 days. Security will be unprecedented. Perfect. Ilara stood, stretching muscles honed by combat and cryogenic restoration. The more resources they commit to protection, the thinner their defenses elsewhere. Krell looked confused. You're not targeting the summit? No. Ilara's smile was cold. While they protect their leaders, we'll take their power. 2 days later, as Coalition forces concentrated around Caldari Prime, a coordinated attack struck 7 primary Coalition energy distribution centers simultaneously. Ilara led the assault on the Central Nexus, a massive installation built within an artificial asteroid orbiting a neutron star. The Coalition had improved security since her earlier raids, but Ilara had adapted as well. Now she had allies, beings, who knew Coalition protocols from the inside, who could provide distraction and support. Ilara moved through the facility's corridors like a predator, eliminating resistance with lethal precision. Krell had hacked their communication systems, leaving security forces blind and disorganized. Val Shar's knowledge of Coalition technology allowed them to bypass advanced scan systems. They reached the central chamber, a cavernous space where machines harvested energy directly from the neutron star through artificial wormholes. Ilara planted targeted charges while her team secured the control room. 5 minutes until system lockout, Krell reported over the comm. Status of other teams? Ilara asked, arming the final device. 6 facilities secured. Team Delta encountered. Heavy resistance but achieved objectives before withdrawing. Everything was proceeding as planned until the chamber doors exploded inward. The figure that entered moved like liquid metal, its form encased in reactive armor that shifted with each movement. Its eyes held no emotion, no hesitation, only purpose. An executor. Krell, execute final sequence and evacuate, Ilara ordered calmly, raising her weapon. I'll handle this. The executor attacked with frightening speed, crossing the chamber in seconds. Ilara dodged the initial assault, her reflexes enhanced by both training and the emergency protocols of her cryopod. She fired repeatedly, but the rounds seemed to slip off the creature's adaptive armor. It struck her with devastating force, sending her crashing into a control panel. Pain flared through her body, but she rolled with the impact, drawing the blade sheathed at her back. You're designed to hunt threats to the Coalition, she said, circling the creature. But the Coalition itself is the disease. The executor didn't respond, launching another attack. This time Ilara was ready, using its momentum against it, guiding its charge toward one of the energy conduits. The creature crashed through the barrier, momentarily exposed to raw stellar radiation. Its armor destabilized, creating a brief vulnerability. Ilara drove her blade into the opening, twisting with all her strength. The executor convulsed, dark fluid seeping from the wound, but still it fought. Its clawed hand closed around her throat, lifting her from the ground. As darkness crept into her vision, Ilara activated the detonator in her palm. The charges planted throughout the chamber exploded in sequence, rupturing the containment systems. Stellar energy flooded the room. The executor's grip faltered as its systems overloaded. Ilara broke free, staggering toward the exit as the facility began to tear itself apart. The executor pursued, relentless despite its injuries, until a collapsing support beam crashed between them. Ilara reached the escape vessel moments before the entire facility imploded, creating a cascade failure that rippled through Coalition power networks across 17 systems. As her ship accelerated away, she watched the explosion bloom against the darkness of space, beautiful and terrible, like the vengeance she carried. Pain lanced through her side where the executor had landed a blow. Her nanomesh combat suit had prevented the worst damage, but blood seeped through the tear, dark against the matte black material. Ilara applied a medical sealant from her kit, gritting her teeth against the burning sensation as the compound bonded with her flesh. In the cockpit view screen, she watched secondary explosions ripple across the artificial asteroid as power regulation systems failed catastrophically. The Coalition had built its energy network like everything else in its domain. Interdependent, centralized, vulnerable to cascade failure. Take out the right node, and entire sectors would follow. Her communications array lit up with encrypted transmissions from her allied teams. All had successfully completed their missions and escaped. The Coalition's energy grid was crippled across a third of its territory. "Commander," Krell's voice came through, distorted by interference. "My team recovered something from the facility's secure archives before withdrawal. Historical data about Earth's defense systems. I believe you should review it immediately." Ilara navigated to the rendezvous coordinates, her mind racing. For 4 centuries, she had carried the weight of a dead world, the sole survivor, the last human, vengeance incarnate. But now, with each new piece of intelligence, a different possibility was emerging. What if she wasn't alone? Across Coalition, space, planetary defense systems failed. Communication networks collapsed, emergency protocols activated, but without central coordination, chaos spread. And on every functional screen, the truth about Earth played again and again, along with a new message. "I am Ilara Hayes, commander of Earth's Phantom Division. I am not alone. To those who have lived under Coalition oppression, who have seen your world stripped and your people subjugated in the name of their peace, the time has come. The Coalition built its authority on lies and genocide. Today, that authority ends." On Caldari Prime, the emergency summit descended into pandemonium as power failed and reports of coordinated attacks flooded in. Admiral Vorzen received confirmation that the executor had failed to eliminate the human target. She wasn't working alone, he realized, a chill settling in his spine. This was never about revenge. This is revolution. In the darkness of space, Ilara's vessel rendezvoused with her growing fleet of allies. Their next target was already selected, the Coalition's central command complex on Nexus Prime, where the architects of Earth's destruction had planned their intervention centuries ago. The Coalition was bleeding power and legitimacy with each passing hour, and the nightmare from Earth was just beginning. A new dawn. The Coalition Central Command on Nexus Prime was a monument to galactic authority. A sprawling complex of towers and domes rising from a terraformed moon. For millennia, it had stood as the physical embodiment of order and control. Now it was the last bastion of a crumbling regime. Admiral Vorzen stared through the reinforced viewport at the defensive ring surrounding the complex. the largest concentration of coalition military might ever assembled, the remnants of 7 fleets gathered in desperate defense. The admiral had aged visibly in the weeks since Alara's campaign began. Deep lines carved his face, and his normally immaculate uniform hung loosely on his frame. Sleep had become a luxury he could no longer afford. "Status report," he demanded, voice hollow with fatigue. 32 systems have declared independence," his aide replied. "Coalition authority remains intact in 43 core systems, but 14 of those report significant unrest. Communication remains compromised. The Vorin Trade Authority has officially withdrawn from the coalition. The Zithera Council has called for immediate reforms. Holographic displays showed the collapse in real time, sectors of coalition space blinking from blue to red as control slipped away. Centuries of expansion, undone in weeks. Millennia of authority, crumbling like sand. "We've lost contact with the Zephyr sector entirely," continued the aide. "The military governor's last transmission indicated widespread rebellion. The Doran hegemony, formerly our most loyal client state, has issued a formal condemnation of coalition actions regarding Earth and other subjugated worlds." Vorzen's fingers tightened on the railing until his knuckles whitened. "And the executors?" "All 6 units deployed. 3 confirmed destroyed. 2 missing in action. 1 returning for reconditioning after suffering critical damage." The admiral closed his eyes briefly. The executors had been their ultimate weapon, deployed only in the most extreme circumstances, created to be invincible. Yet this human had defeated them, one after another. "And the human?" 32 systems have declared independence," his aide replied. "Coalition authority remains intact in 43 core systems, but 14 of those report significant unrest. Communication remains compromised. The Vorin Trade Authority has officially withdrawn from the coalition. The Zithera Council has called for immediate reforms. And the human? No confirmed sightings in 7 days, but resistance activities coordinated under her banner have increased exponentially. Vorzen had aged years in weeks. The swift collapse of coalition influence had shocked even the most pessimistic analysts. Centuries of carefully maintained control had evaporated once the foundation of lies was exposed. "They're coming here," he said quietly. "The final attack will be against Central Command itself. Our defenses are impenetrable, Admiral." Vorzen laughed bitterly. "We thought Earth was neutralized. We thought the human was operating alone. We've been wrong at every turn." His console chimed with an incoming transmission on a classified emergency channel that hadn't been used in centuries. "This is Commander Alara Hayes of Earth. I'm addressing the remaining coalition leadership directly." Vorzen signaled frantically for technicians to trace the signal. "For weeks I've hunted those responsible for Earth's destruction," Hayes continued. "I've exposed your lies and dismantled your power. But I'm not here to destroy civilization, only to end your corrupt control of it. In 1 hour, I will arrive at Nexus Prime. You have until then to evacuate all non-essential personnel. Surrender. Those responsible for Operation Silent Cleanse, and the bloodshed ends today. Refuse, and I will finish what I started." The transmission ended. Technicians looked up in confusion. "We couldn't trace it, Admiral. It came from inside the complex." Vorzen's blood ran cold. Alarms began blaring throughout the facility. Across the complex, carefully placed explosive charges detonated simultaneously, targeting power systems and security nodes. Coalition forces scrambled in confusion as enemy combatants materialized. Within their midst, not just the human huntress, but warriors from a dozen species, many wearing coalition uniforms. Alara Hayes led a strike team directly toward the central command spire. Her intelligence was perfect. Every security measure, every patrol route, every access code provided by allies who had infiltrated coalition ranks over the preceding weeks. She moved with fluid precision, her combat suit's adaptive camouflage shifting to match surroundings. The Coalition had improved their sensor technology specifically to detect her, but Ilara had countered with modifications of her own, dampening fields, false signal generators, and old-fashioned tactics that relied on observation rather than technology. Behind her came warriors from a dozen different species, each with their own reason to see the Coalition fall. A Kaldari weapons specialist, whose family had been relocated when they questioned authority. A Voran scientist who had been imprisoned for publishing research contradicting official doctrine. A pair of Zithara philosophers who had spent decades in isolation for advocating ethical reforms. They weren't an army, not in the traditional sense. They were something more dangerous, believers in a cause fighting not for conquest, but for justice. "Central security hub ahead," Ilara said through their encrypted communication channel. 3 guards, automated defense turrets, and bioscan verification. "Countermeasures ready," replied Krell, the disgraced Kaldari engineer who had become one of her most trusted allies. He activated a device that projected false biological signatures, a technology he had helped develop for the Coalition before his disgrace. The security hub's doors registered the approaching group as authorized personnel. By the time the guards realized something was wrong, it was too late. Ilara's team neutralized the opposition with surgical precision, stun weapons rather than lethal force where possible. This wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about change. "Download complete," reported Valshar, interfacing with the security mainframe. "I have control of internal defense systems and surveillance networks." Ilara nodded. "Initiate blackout protocols." Throughout the complex, lights flickered and died. Automated systems shut down. Communication channels went silent. In the ensuing confusion, dozens of other infiltration teams, placed within the complex days or weeks earlier, activated simultaneously. Resistance was fierce, but ultimately futile. Coalition forces fought with discipline, but without conviction. Too many had seen the evidence of their government's crimes. Too many questioned what they were defending. Ilara reached the command center and found Admiral Vorzen waiting, alone, his sidearm placed carefully on the console before him. "You've won," he said simply. "The Coalition is finished." Ilara kept her weapon trained on him. "You coordinated the response to my attacks. You deployed the executors, but you weren't part of Earth's destruction." "No. I was a junior officer then, but I saw the records. I knew the truth." Vorzen's shoulders sagged. "I told myself it was necessary. One primitive world sacrificed to maintain peace across thousands." "Peace built on genocide isn't peace," Ilara said. "It's just delayed justice." "What happens now, Commander? Will you execute me like the others?" Ilara studied him. "The others gave orders, planned the attack, celebrated Earth's fall. You just inherited their lies." She lowered her weapon slightly. "I'm not here to replace one tyranny with another." Outside, Coalition defense vessels were surrendering or withdrawing. On the complex's communication systems, Ilara's allies were broadcasting their victory and their terms. Not vengeance, but justice. Not destruction, but reformation. "There's something you should know," Vorzen said quietly. "About Earth." Ilara's expression hardened. "I saw it burn." "Yes, but the bombardment wasn't complete." Vorzen activated a secure terminal, bringing up classified files. Remote monitoring detected survivors, scattered enclaves that escaped the worst destruction. The Coalition leadership decided they weren't worth eliminating. A primitive species, on a ruined world. Ilara stared at the data, emotions warring across her face. "Earth lives? In some form. The planet is healing, slowly, and the survivors, they've rebuilt. Small settlements, growing, without interference." For the first time since awakening to her dead world, Ilara felt something beyond vengeance. hope. The Coalition's Central Command became the foundation for something new. Representatives from worlds both formerly coalition and independent gathered to form the Galactic Accord, an alliance based on mutual respect rather than domination. Ilara declined any official position, despite being urged to lead. Her mission wasn't governance, but restoration. With a small fleet of dedicated allies, she set course for a blue-green world in an unremarkable spiral arm. Earth had changed in 4 centuries. Much of it remained scarred by ancient bombardment, but life had returned with stunning resilience. Forests reclaimed ruined cities. Waters ran clear again, and humanity, reduced to scattered tribes and struggling settlements, had survived. Ilara's ship descended through cloud cover, atmospheric entry heating the hull to a dull orange glow. Below, a patchwork of green and brown landscape stretched to the horizon, punctuated by the skeletal remains of what had once been great cities. Nature had reclaimed much, but the scars of orbital bombardment remained visible, vast, circular, craters where the Coalition's weapons had struck with apocalyptic force. As they approached their landing coordinates, what had once been the Colorado region of North America, Ilara stood transfixed at the viewport. For centuries, she had carried Earth in her memory, its blue oceans, its swirling cloud patterns, its night side glittering with the lights of human civilization. The reality before her was both heartbreaking and hopeful, a wounded world slowly healing. The ship settled in a clearing near the ruins of what sensors identified as Denver. Once a metropolis of millions, now reduced to tumbled concrete and twisted metal reclaimed by forest. But there were signs of new construction, simple structures built using salvaged materials, cultivated fields, the distant smoke of cooking fires. Life signs detected, reported Valshar from the sensor station. Approximately 300 humans within 5 kilometers. Ilara checked her appearance in a reflective panel. She had discarded her combat armor for simple clothing, practical, garments that wouldn't appear threatening. No weapons were visible, though a small defensive blade remained concealed at her ankle. First contact with her own people after 4 centuries would be delicate enough without appearing as a warrior from the stars. As the loading ramp descended, Ilara took a deep breath of Earth's air, sweet, slightly acrid from distant fires, but unmistakably home. She stepped onto the soil of her planet for the first time since entering cryosleep centuries ago. A reception. Party had already gathered at the edge of the clearing. 24 humans armed with a mixture of primitive weapons and what appeared to be salvaged Coalition technology. They maintained a cautious distance, expressions wary but curious. One figure stepped forward, a woman perhaps in her 40s, with weather-worn features and the confident bearing of leadership. "I am Mara Collins, elder of New Denver Settlement," she called out. "We've seen ships like yours before. Usually means trouble." Ilara approached slowly, hands visible. "My name is Ilara Hayes. I was born on Earth, before the bombardment." Murmurs rippled through the gathered humans. Mara's eyes narrowed. "That's not possible. The Great Fire was over 300 years ago." 397, Ilara corrected. "I survived in cryosleep, a contingency plan for Earth's defense forces." She gestured toward her ship and the alien allies who remained at the ramp. "I've returned with allies. The coalition that destroyed our world is falling, and humanity is reclaiming its place among the stars." Mara studied her for a long moment, then turned to a young man beside her. "Fetch the keeper. She'll want to hear this." To Ilara, she said, "We have stories passed down through generations, tales of the world before the fire, of those who were meant to return." Her expression softened slightly, including one about a sleeping warrior who would awaken to bring justice. "I'm no legend," Ilara said quietly. "Just a soldier who survived." "Perhaps," Mara replied, "but legends grow from seeds of truth." She extended her hand in greeting, a gesture unchanged after centuries. "Welcome home, Ilara Hayes." They viewed Ilara with awe and suspicion when she first arrived, this woman in strange armor accompanied by creatures from beyond the stars. But she brought knowledge, technology, and truth. Earth would never again be isolated or vulnerable. Under the new Galactic Accord, Earth received protection and assistance. Human settlements grew and prospered. Within decades, new cities rose from the ruins of the old. Within a century, humanity had reclaimed its place among the stars, not as conquerors or victims, but as equals. The former coalition species came to understand what they had nearly destroyed, a species of remarkable adaptability and determination. Humans approached problems differently, thought differently, fought differently. Their perspective proved invaluable in confronting challenges that threatened all sentient life. Ilara Hayes remained a figure of legend, the woman who brought down an empire and raised a world from ashes. She never accepted accolades, preferring to work on Earth's restoration. But her legacy spread throughout the galaxy. Justice matters. Truth prevails. And underestimating humanity is a mistake no one would make again. On the centennial of Earth's return to the galactic community, representatives from hundreds of worlds gathered at the new United Earth headquarters. Ancient enemies now stood as allies. Former oppressors worked alongside the once oppressed. Ilara, now advancing in years despite the best medical technology, watched from a quiet corner. A young Zithara diplomat approached her with reverence. "Without you, none of this would exist," the diplomat said. "You turned vengeance into salvation." Ilara smiled faintly, looking out at the rebuilt skyline of what had once been called Denver. "I only reminded the galaxy of something it tried to forget." "What was that?" "That humanity doesn't break. We adapt. We endure." Her eyes reflected the setting sun. "And we never forget." Across the stars, the lesson remained. The species that had been dismissed as primitive, that had been bombarded and left for dead, had not only survived but had transformed the galaxy, not through conquest, but through the same resilience that had kept Earth's survivors fighting through centuries of darkness. The nightmare from Earth had become the galaxy's new dawn,